Hey everybody, welcome into the Turn 2 podcast. I'm Scott Kornberg with my good friend Troy Johnston down in Miami. Troy, how you doing? And I want you to be the one to introduce our special guest for this episode.
I'm doing great. I've been really excited to have this podcast, this specific podcast. We have a very unique figure in the Miami Marlins organization and specific to the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. A lot of you guys see him running across the field, waving, giving, high fives, talking to the guys on first base. But we actually have the manager of the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp, David Carpenter. He has been a huge influence on a lot of people that have come through Jacksonville in his very first year as a AAA coach. And not only has he been a successful first year coach, but he actually clinched a first half playoff berth in his very first AAA coaching stint. So I'm very excited to have him on the show. Carp, my first question when we go through it is, how do you like Jacksonville?
I love it, honestly. You go to certain baseball cities, whether it be in the big leagues, the minor leagues, and there's just a different feel to it. Like this is a sports city. And getting the opportunity to be here, be in a beautiful stadium like this, Josh takes amazing care of it. The front office does an amazing job as far as, getting the fan and experience involved with player experience. And it's just a really, really good blend of that. So, and we've been blessed with a really, really good turnout all year long. Obviously, winning helps that, but it's a really, really good area to be in.
It's funny, that was kind of a loaded question. I didn't even realize that. You can't really say that you don't like Jacksonville because this is a Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp podcast.
True. I
But
mean, I figure you're going to set me up for failure first off, but I'll just turn the tables on you.
so I do have a very specific question then. So for me, there's a lot of like little nooks and crannies within Jacksonville. It's a huge city. There's a lot of things to do, a lot of places to go. Is there a certain spot that you prefer over the others? Like, let's say you have an off day. I know you guys are very busy, even on the off days, but you got an hour, 2 hours. Like, what's your favorite thing to do in Jacks?
Honestly, Bearded Pig is one of my favorite spots to go to, obviously for the food. Taco Lou, incredible. Got introduced to that from Smoke and a couple other guys. Just a foodie. Just enjoy going around, seeing some of the places, but enjoying like where can I go grab something good to eat before we go to the field or even on an off day. I know when my son was down here during summer break, we got to go to the water park over by Taco Lou. So just a few things here and there, just trying to get out, mingle, meet some people, and it's been a lot of fun.
We're recording this at about 2:05 Eastern time on a game day. So what is your day-to-day life like as the man? We could get into the player stuff too. I know you have that background, but for a manager, how are you preparing from when you wake up for a 7 o'clock game? What's the kind of like the time frame like for you?
Well, I'm not the typical manager that's going to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and have my morning coffee and stuff. I'm just not to that point yet. So still enough of player mentality in there where it's like, all right, go sleep in a little bit, maybe start moving around 8:30, 9 o'clock, go through the normal day, um, just kind of see what's on the schedule, what we need to improve upon. Like if there's things with the base running side of things that we need to review with video, if there's outfield stuff we need to review, if there's potential call ups, send downs, stuff like that. So just trying to be in tune with what's going on from the big league level and obviously from PD. So prior after that, normally go and grab lunch somewhere, either kind of by myself with the staff, or I'll grab our clubhouse concierge, old Mansour, Paul Watley, and we'll go to a couple different establishments and grab something to eat before we trek our way to the field and start the rest of the day.
So you mentioned something specific. You said talking about the call ups, the call downs, kind of being in tune with the big league staff. You are in a very specific situation in that you are the bridge between the minor league and the big league side. So you have to deal with a lot of different people. You have to deal with the front office, you have to deal with the players, you have to deal with coaches. How how intense and how exciting? Give us a little insight into what does a call up look like? What does that feeling look like when, because I know it's exciting even as a coach that you get to see the excitement in somebody's eyes of them living your dream. I know when you called me, you saw that. I know you've done it countless times, but give us a little insight into that as well.
So there's a direct line, obviously, of communication, whether it's a pitcher Or if it's a hitter, there's normally a direct line from JJ. He'll send a message to me and Rob or to me and Mike, depending on the position of the player. And he'll tell us, hey, we need to hold this guy out for today. There's potential movement, or it might be directly, hey, this guy is going up today. We need to notify him at this time so that we can get in touch with, travel personnel so they can get everything set up if he needs to go to Miami, if he's going to a visiting city, and just try to prepare that stuff and make the transition as seamless as possible. So, talking about that excitement, when you get that text message, you get that phone call, you get to relive your own call up over again. And especially for like Marge and myself, like getting to live that again is really, really part of the job that we enjoy so, so much because it's life changing. Whether it's the guy's first time, it's his fifth time, it's still impactful. It's still something that everyone is striving for, to get up there to the big league level, be a part of a winning culture, and go have a direct impact on that winning culture. So to be able to enjoy that with the guys, you get that initial phone call, you have the conversation, you try to think of organic ways to, talk to that individual, like make it personal, make it memorable. For so many of the guys that, have families, have children, like you want to get everybody involved that you can. And obviously your situation comes to mind, Augustine Ramirez, Ronnie Simon, Roberto Hernandez, Jack Winkler. Like there's so many guys that come to mind when we got the opportunity to do this, and every single one of them has been special. There's not been one that I can say, it was okay. Like all of them have been really, really cool and heartfelt.
What was your call-up story when you got that call for the first time?
So that's the funny part. We had just finished a series in Round Rock when I was with the Astros. We were in Oklahoma City at the time. So we go from Round Rock, get on a bus, we're driving to Memphis. Get into Memphis at, I don't know, 5, 6 o'clock. We weren't pampered like this, 6 game series, one off day,
Oh,
6 game
oh,
series, one
brother.
off day. We had to rough it a little bit more. Uh, but so we drive in early in the morning, get to the room, go take a shower. I step out, and the guy I'm rooming with goes, "Hey, Skipper just called, calling back. I'm not sure what's going on." And I'm at this point, you're so far out of it because you're tired. You're like, "All right, call him back." And literally, the only words were, "Congrats, you're going to the big leagues." Click. And like I'm standing there with the receiver in my hand. I'm like, "This did I dream this? Did this really happen?" Oh crap, this is hitting me. I've got to call my dad and mom. My girlfriend at the time was coming down to watch us play. Like, there's so many people I'm trying to think of that I need to call in this moment because I'm getting ready to jump on a flight really, really quick. And so, thinking back to that and how I don't want to call it cold, but it was kind of cold and how it was delivered. That's something I took personal. I was like, if I ever get that opportunity to tell a guy he's going to the big leagues, he's gonna remember it because I want it to be impactful. I want it to be life changing. I want it to be something that they can tell their family, their kids, their friends about for the rest of their life.
For you, I'm presuming that they are guys, especially because you said you're still kind of in the player mode. You were a player 4 or 5 years ago. So, who are the coaches that you played for? Could have been a pitching coach, bullpen coach, manager that you're like, I really like how they did this. And you just said, I want to make a memorable call up for every single guy on this roster if I ever get to manage. You have. What about the other facets of this job? Because it's so much of a communication-based job. Who are some people who come to mind who influenced you as a player that you've kind of taken things in this first year as a manager in Jacksonville?
I've had some really, really good influences on my career. Been blessed with a lot of good men that have had a direct impact. Guys that come to mind are Doug Brocail, Eric Gagne, Freddie Gonzalez. Even though I didn't get a play for him, Bobby Cox was incredible to me when the time I was in Atlanta. Brad Mills was wonderful for me as a first-time manager in the big leagues. There are so many guys that had a really, really big impact on me. Not to mention just those guys, but guys within the Cardinals organization who I came up with. The short time I got to spend some minor league time in the minor leagues with the Astros, like Tommy Lawless. Like He was phenomenal. I know he was a former Fish. But there have been some really, really good men that have impacted my career. And I always try to take something from them and go, okay, what can I learn with their style, with their delivery, with their just hubris, I guess is the best way to kind of put it. Like, how can I take that and create this own or like my own way of doing things? And you try to take good things from everybody. You even take some bad things from people who are like, I definitely want to stay away from that. But I've had a lot of really, really good guys impact my career, and I hope that I represent them well as I go through this.
We'll get into your playing career here soon. Um, but one funny fact is you brought up Tom Lawless. He was actually my very first professional manager.
Hmm.
No kidding.
And yep, with the Batavia Mud Dogs. He wasn't supposed to be in that position, but he was my very first professional manager. And we would always pull up the video of him hitting a walk-off or a go-ahead home run where he invented the bat flip.
Yep.
And so he said, none of you guys will ever hit the ball far enough to, you know, react or do anything as cool as what I did in that game seven World Series. But I know he'd appreciate that. My next question comes through is, Carp, you are almost a different animal at different times of the day when you are in the manager's position. So before the game, probably I'm going to say we got a 7 o'clock game, 7:05. I would say about 6:30, you turn into this different animal, this different beast. But before that, you are hanging out with the guys. You're making sure everybody's good, family's good, everybody's prepped, they're getting ready. You're one with the clubhouse. You're bringing good energy, all this kind of stuff. Then, right when 6:35 hits, right before you're about to go out, you kind of flip a switch. And this kind of leads into my next question: is how much do you take? And I know we've talked about this on the side, but how much do you take the playing days into now your managerial role? Because you have a huge role here with the Jumbo Shrimp. You are the first base coach. You have a lot of different jobs. You are the manager. You are the first base coach. You got a lot of different things. So you pretty much lock in for the game just as much as the players do. Can you kind of give us some insight on like why and like how you do that?
Sure. And in this game, you've got to have the ability to flip that switch. You have to have the ability, number one, leading up to that time, enjoy the day, enjoy the people you're around, get your work in, be diligent with it, but enjoy what you're doing. Like if you're coming here and you're miserable day after day after day, like there's no use being here. You've got to love your job because then it's not a job. It's a career, it's a life choice. It's all these things that we get to enjoy and you get to serve others better by having that perspective. You're able to impact guys differently because you're more approachable, because you're able to connect with them and ask them to do things that maybe aren't on their radar or not as comfortable. It's a challenge point. Okay, how do I get this guy to buy in? Let's see where I can meet him. Okay, I got to meet the player where he's at to be able to discuss these things and have hard conversations at times. But if I make myself openly available to have those conversations, we get more accomplished. But then once that 6:30, 30 minutes before the game, it's always been my mentality. When it's time to go to work, you go to work. And having a more direct impact on the game, um, as a manager and as a first base coach, like I feel like I am directly involved with this. Like I owe you guys, the players, especially the position guys that are coming out there and relying on me at first base to give them good information, to coach them in a way that is going to be very aggressive, but it also is going to allow us to score runs, take extra bases because it directly impacts the career, the season, the game, the timing of what's going on in that moment. You guys deserve my best, and that's how I feel I best serve you guys.
You said something kind of interesting. And Troy, we've talked about this in our podcast. This is a really difficult level to manage. And I know, Carp, we've talked about this too, because like, Troy is a great example of a guy who had to take some frustrations and wait in a situation he could not control before finally getting that call. And there's so many guys in the clubhouse there who have been down and up, and they believe that they're good enough to be up again. And then you've got these really young kids. This is the youngest AAA team, I think, in all of this level, who they feel like they're good enough to contribute. So like when you were in West Virginia, you're dealing with a lot younger guys and it just feels so far away. And it's like, okay, we'll go to the next level when we go there. But here, it's just this weird mix of young guys and veterans. And there's this old cliche of in AAA, like nobody is happy because nobody really wants to be here. But this team, I've never seen a clubhouse like this. So, as someone who had to do this yourself a little bit, how are you able to connect with each of those different parties to really, I think the word you used the other day with me was family. And it really feels like that. I know Troy has echoed that at times this year, and that is a really unique thing for this level. I think if you were to probably poll all 30 clubhouses, very few of them are harmonious, but this one has seemed to be on the same page all year long. And that's a huge credit to you in your first year in minor league baseball, let alone AAA.
So going back to what I experienced when I was working in the draft league as a manager, baseball players across all levels have this wonderful thing called delusion. And it's what makes us really, really good. It's what makes us at times too stubborn. But every guy feels they have the ability to play higher than the level they're currently at, which is a good thing when it's kept in check. And that's something whether you're in the draft league, whether you're in low A, whether you're in the Dominican, if you're in double A, triple A, wherever you're at, it's a good thing to have a little bit of delusion, healthy delusion, because you have to have that belief in yourself. So it continues to drive you. You're not looking at it as a hindrance of, oh, poor me. It's, I deserve to be there. I'm going to show you that I should be there. And that's a good thing that I feel I've gotten to experience as a manager is you have a healthy dose of that across the majority of the guys that we've had in this clubhouse. Um, Now going on to the fact of where you have guys coming down from the big leagues, you have guys coming up from double A, you have guys that have been here for a year, 2 years, 3 years, who are looking for that opportunity. When you're able to bring those guys together and allow them to work on their individual goals, their individual plans, which is really, really important for our development as an organization, but to also give them team goals. You're able to identify, hey, we're fighting for this playoff spot. If we can do this together, play the game the right way, execute our individual plans, it helps the team in general. Like this is what we're fighting for. And you saw this group come together so strong, especially in the later part of the first half, and really put together an amazing run. I was really, really proud of the group. And then I want to say a few days after that, I'm sitting there thinking we could potentially get stagnant if it's just, okay, we're in the playoffs, guys are just going to go about their business. Like it could turn into very much an individualized clubhouse. And I didn't want it to turn into that. So I'm sitting there with Marge, I'm sitting there with Rob the one day. I said, we need to have a common goal. And I put up on the board 95 wins. Originally, and I'll admit it on here, I was thinking, let's go for 90. And then I thought, you know what? 90 is definitely attainable. Let's go for something harder. Let's shoot for 95. And I felt that we were on pace and in a really good spot as a team to still achieve that goal. Obviously, we hit a little bit of a slide here the past couple weeks, but we're starting to turn things back around. And that 90 is still an attainable goal. It's going to be tough, but I think the guys we have in that clubhouse who have understood what the assignment has been from day one to come in, get their work in, and identify what they need to do to have an opportunity at the next level while still focusing on the stuff that's where their feet are has been really important. I think we're going to be able to accomplish that and go in with some steam heading into the playoffs.
4-5. That's all you got to do to hit 90 wins, by the way. So,
Uh-oh. Spoken into existence. Spoken
Let's
into
just win them all.
existence.
Just win them all.
Just
Make
win
it
them
real
all.
easy. Win them all.
Mhm. Um, when did you make this decision to get into coaching? I know it's a highly personal thing for guys who, like yourself, had long playing careers. I know we've talked about this on the side, but it's hard to leave, right? Like you were still at a high level playing when you were with the Texas Rangers, I think at the end. And B, getting into coaching is not always an easy choice because all of a sudden you're kind of back with your family again. And I know you have kids, and I know that's really important to you. We've talked about that many times, not on the air, but just simply just person to person. So what was that decision like for you to kind of go to West Virginia and Fairmont State and obviously make your way to the Marlins organization?
Stepping away from playing was one of the toughest things I've ever done. Um, and I felt it was the right thing at the time for my family. Um, and it was really tough because for about a year, I wanted nothing to do with baseball. And it was the thing that I had really deeply enjoyed my entire life. Basically from 4 years old up until being 35-ish at the time. So we're talking roughly 30 years. Something I've dedicated so much of my time to because I loved it, and got to enjoy it. It was something that I got to enjoy with my parents. Obviously growing up at a baseball field, they were always there, and it was really tough to walk away from it. And during that time when I decided to do that, like if a game was on television, I'd walk out of the room. We could be at a restaurant, I'd sit down to eat, and I'd be like, "Can we sit at another table?" Like it was that bad. Like I missed it that much, and yet I was like, I wanted no part of it. So getting back into it, it was because I missed it. I actually stepped into the pitching coach role at Fairmont State for a former teammate of mine, and I realized that this was supposed to be kind of my calling once I stepped away from playing. But even before that, when I had been towards the end of my career, you're always helping younger guys. You're trying to find a way to how to impact the next level of guys that are going to be coming up. You want to teach them to do things the right way, play the game the correct way, prepare, and hold themselves to a higher standard. Because you had guys do that for you as for me as I was coming up. So it was an opportunity to give back. Now, being a coach, you also have that type of impact on guys. Um, and the further down that rabbit hole I went with being a pitching coach, and then I got asked to do the managing duties in the draft league. It was just one of these things. Was like, this is where I'm supposed to be, and I really felt it was a calling that I had. Did a lot of praying about it, a lot of soul searching, and I felt it was something that God put on my heart to pursue. And I know a lot of people ask why are you doing this? Like you're stepping away from your family again. And thankfully, with the support of my parents and my boys, like it seemed like the right thing to do. Now, obviously, I still miss all of them while I'm away, but I'm getting to impact young men's lives in a positive manner, and I want to see their lives change for the better, and they're able to impact not only their lives but their families' lives as well.
So I think one of the coolest stories that I've heard about you is how you got the interview to be a Marlins manager, essentially. So, and walk me through it. Correct me if I'm wrong, please.
Sure.
You were at Driveline, which is, of course, 40 minutes from my house in Seattle. Or were you on in Arizona?
No, Seattle.
Okay,
Arizona
so
didn't
you're the one in
exist at the
Seattle.
time yet.
You were working on pitches. You were like, I'm trying to get, 1% better. I'm trying out all these new stuff, all these different things. And you meet Rachel. Rachel's there at Driveline, talks to you, calls you this last off season and says, "Hey, we got a job position opening. Would you like to take the interview?" You take the interview, you get the job, and this is my segue into it. Walk me through, of course, kind of how that looked, how the interview process looked. But the Marlins are doing something very different than a lot of different organizations, and it's very cool to watch the progress and how everything has been flipping and everything has been changing to a more progressive state. I know personally for me, I love that we have all the reports. I know that there's different stuff about the reports or different all these kind of things, but I love being able to go up there and see exactly where I stand, exactly where I need to get better. I don't need to have a talk with a coach and be like, "Hey, what can I do? I'm not where I want to be. What can I do?" It's this is it. Here's your numbers. Here's where you stand in all of the organization. Here's how you line up against different stuff, and this is how we can get you better. Let's go work on this. So going back to essentially all the way back to Driveline, because of course I went through a long story of that, but all the way back to Driveline, start me through what you learned at Driveline and kind of how that conversation with Rachel started.
So this is towards the tail end of my career, 2018. I'm not throwing the ball how I felt I was capable of. Had come off of injury from 2015 and just never really got back to being myself. Was really disappointed in it, tried to do it myself, went through indie ball, went to big league camp with the Rays, got released twice. It just, things weren't clicking how they needed to. So I contact Kyle Bodie. We get in touch. I started doing the driveline program. I remember going out to Seattle at this time, and I'm getting ready to do um, a mound mocap. So you're basically there in your underwear with the dots all over you, getting ready to throw. There's Rachel sitting on the computer, making sure everything's aligned, and she's talking trash to me. So, of course, me being me, I'm like, I don't care. I'm going to talk trash back. And we just developed a friendship that way, just, treating her as one of the baseball guys. She's in with us. So developing that relationship, respecting where she had come from within this game, just able to maintain that relationship over a number of years, but understanding why I was there was the purpose of getting better. Even at that stage of my career where I could have relied on, oh, I did this before, I should be fine. No, wasn't going to cut it. I wanted to get better. I wanted to continue to be really good at my craft and try to continue to get better. As long as I played this game, there was no use being stagnant. Like you have to find a way to continue to have value and increase your value every day that you're in this game, whether you're a player or you're a coach. So that was the way that got introduced. So Rachel contacts me. Um, Actually, I contacted her originally and asked if there was any pitching, positions open. She said no. All we have is managing positions open. I said, funny you mentioned that. I said, because guess what I've been doing for the past 2 years? And she goes, oh crap, I forgot about that. Let's put you through the process. And when she stated what positions were open, I thought, great. You know, I think Jupiter was open. I think Pensacola was open. Obviously Jacksonville. And I thought there might have been one more that was open. And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I'm probably starting at a lower level. That's how this is going to work. They want to make sure that I'm able to build up to this. So I do a written interview, talk about some of the things that I value, why I feel I'd be really good for the position, um, you know, some things that I feel I continue to improve on, things I feel that I can do well. So we go through that process, and then I get notified by Rachel say that, hey, we're going to have a Teams call. Okay, perfect. Pop on Teams call, and I'm thinking it's going to be Rach. I knew of Cap, like we had kind of crossed paths, within baseball before, and maybe one or two other people. I flip on my screen and there's like 15 plus people on there. There's Lenny's on there, Carson's on there, Clayton's on there. I mean, Hector, there's a ton of people on there. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, here we go. And I jokingly say, oh, nice to meet everybody. What do we want to talk about? Just kind of jokingly open it up. And, have really good dialogue on there. Just talk about, value as a manager, my past career, what I've took from that, how it's going to impact how I'm going to be as a manager. And just, it was really, really cool to be able to talk to a lot of these brilliant people about how I want to impact the game and how I want to be a part of what the Marlins are pushing for us to be. Not just, okay, we're going to have a good farm system or, oh, okay, we want to win a little bit at the big league level. No, we want to have a dominant farm system. We want to have a dominant big league team. We want to have a championship caliber team and get us there as fast as we possibly can because it's not just about trying to get to the playoffs or get to 90 wins. Let's win a pennant. Let's win the World Series. Like that's what this is all about. If you're not here, especially at the big league level, which you understand now, it's about winning there. You still develop, you still bust your butt, but you're going into it with a winning mentality. How do we win day in and day out? Just to kind of go on top of what you were talking about with the like the information that they give now, Troy. It's no longer a coach's opinion. Like there's factual based information that is given to all of you guys. Okay, here's what you need to improve to have an opportunity to try and get to the big leagues. Like obviously, the information is given from, the Dominican all the way up through on what guys need to try and accomplish and reach certain numbers and do things a certain way to have the opportunity to be promoted. But once you get to this AAA level, like it's not just about, okay, he's putting up good numbers. It's okay, are we playing the game the correct way? So, but to go back to what you had talked about, where a coach just kind of has some opinions, like there's factual information to go along with an idea that a coach or a staff or a director or whoever it is might see that we're having this plan for each player and how we go to accomplish that.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the coolest parts of kind of what I've seen this year is that it's very specific. It's very, hey, you do this and this, and you have a better shot of reaching your goals, doing what you want to do, and even just having more success in this game. And really that's what it's about. Is like how can you get every individual on the team better each day, day in and day out, game by game, week by week? How do you get them better? Because everybody knows, slumps are going to happen, whether you're pitching, hitting, catching, defense, whatever it is, it's going to happen. But how do you marginalize those, shrink those? Because usually those numbers pop up, and that's when those kind of starts rolling, rolling, rolling. That's when you can start that. You can start that player plan. You can be like, hey, look, this is exactly how you got yourself into this situation. Let's try to get yourself out. Let's work together. Let's do that plan, and we can build off that.
100%. And that's where I feel like that's being communicated more clearly now. Because before, and this is stuff that I've brought up to the pitching staff here, I've brought it up to some of the hitters. I know you've heard it before. The information that we are now giving to players used to be hoarded by organizations. And so players are sitting there almost blindly like, okay, how do I improve? How do I increase my value for the organization I'm currently with so that they see me as a potential big leaguer? And all that information was very much hoarded rather than being given freely to guys so they can understand, okay, this is how I accomplish this. And it gives you honesty. It gives you honest feedback on why you're potentially having a chance to move up, or if you're just kind of stuck where you're at, you're being stagnant, or if you're potentially trending down. Okay, what do I need to change to get back on track?
And I feel like there's a really good way to go about it too. Because I know that as a player, we always want to get better. There's no like certain way we want to get better. But trying to go about it and being smart and being really strategic has been the coolest thing to watch because it really has been. It's been very true. We got the traject, we have machines, we have arm, we got all these different things, all these at our disposal, all these things at our disposal that are so cool to go ahead and be like, okay, let's try this out. Now go test it. Let's try this out. Now go test it. Instead of trying it out in the cage and then going to the game and testing it. And now it's like, okay, clearly that didn't work in the game. Now I just wasted 4 at-bats. Now I got to go back to the drawing board. Now it's, hey, let's go put up David Carpenter on the traject and let's go see some arm off him. And let's go see if this, swing works, this timing mechanism works. And I think that's probably the coolest part because the Marlins are truly investing in a lot of their players. Just they're investing so much money, so much time, so much effort just to try to get us slightly better, slightly more successful in our career. And whether guys take off with it, you see guys like Jacob Marcy absolutely taking off with it. You see guys like Kemp Alderman absolutely taking off with it. They already had the stuff in place, but now you take those numbers, you take that strategy, and you now give it to them. Now they can just go play. They're free. They can go do what they need to do.
And it's such an advantage now because this was stuff, and I hate to sound like the old guys say, oh, back when I played, but it almost feels that way. It's like, man, I wish we could have had this type of technology, this type of information. How much better could I have been or my peers have been with this type of resource? And I'm so happy to see so many of you guys taking full advantage of it. Because when you take full advantage of it, you increase your value so much and give yourself a chance to be impactful at the big league level to obviously chase what we're trying to chase, but also achieve the individual stuff that we're trying to achieve as well.
So I have a little caveat about the traject. I heard that there was one of the nights that Juice was actually hitting off the traject And if we need to cut it, we can cut it. This is part of the story. We can cut this. But I heard that he actually hit a double off of Mr. Carpenter while Mr. Carpenter was up on the trajectory. Can you confirm and or deny that there was success from Juice, our trainer, off of David Carpenter?
I will confirm there was contact. What
He
I will
told me
den
he hit it
what
hard and it might have been a double.
what I will deny was that it was solid contact. What I will confirm was it was definitely not a fastball. But it was a barrel-seeking slider that he
Hmm.
ran into for potential move the runner from second to third. Maybe it sneaks by the first baseman if they're in a heavy pull situation, but there was contact made. And I signed the bat for him. Congratulations. So he can have that in his man cave forever now.
It's amazing.
That's a fun thing you can have with Traject. As much as it is a work object, that is kind of the fun stuff. You can see those. You can see different pictures. You can pull up Justin Verlander to see him one of the days too. Stuff like that. It's just
It's
so cool.
wild. It's
It's so
wild.
cool.
I want to talk a little bit about your playing career. And one of the first things that like anyone would know about you, Carp, West Virginia is home, and it truly is home. You stayed in state for college. How important was it to, first off, as a catcher, we'll get to that in a little bit, but how important was it to you to be in Morgantown at West Virginia University for your schooling?
There were opportunities to leave the state to a number of different schools, like some really, really nice schools, but I never really took advantage of visits to go see some of these places. I kind of wish now that I would have, but one of the things that kept me close to home was the fact of I wanted my parents to be able to watch me play. That was something that I had because I'm an only child, very, tight knit family with my mom and dad. So I wanted them to have the opportunity to still see me play. And there were a couple junior colleges that I had, talked to that were a few hours away. It was going to be difficult for my dad to get off work, get there in time to be able to watch games in the afternoon or evening. Obviously, some other schools much further outside of the state, four-year schools who have done very, very well for themselves. But it was important for me to be there. And I remember talking to Coach Greg Van Zant at the time um, about potentially coming there. And he said, why do you want to come here? What are your goals? All that kind of stuff. And I said, basically, I'm going to be here 3 years and I'm going to get drafted. I'm going to go play in the big leagues. And of course, he kind of grins, and I'm sure he's heard the story many, many times. And he goes, "Oh, I'm sure. Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, we have a handful of guys that think that." And I looked at him and said, "Yeah, but I'm going to do it." And he said, "If you could choose any school in the country, where would you go?" I turned and I looked at my dad, and my dad just goes, "Tell him." And I said, "Miami." I said, "Not Miami of Ohio, like the U." And he just looks at me. He's like, this kid's crazy." And I said, "That's a team that I've followed for a long time. They constantly get guys drafted. I think that year they had something crazy like 10 guys drafted, like before I signed there." And Coach Van Zant's like taken aback by this. He goes, "Really? Like Miami, huh?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Hold on a second." Like turns around, pulls out a sheet of paper and hands it to me. And it was that year's draft of how many guys came from Miami. It was 9 or 10. Number two was West Virginia with 6. And I was like, you know what? Sounds good. And I literally talked to him about it. And I said, let's come up with a plan for financial and everything. I want to make sure that I can come here. Like this is a place I want to be. And I didn't try to look, bargain too much with him or anything. I told him this is where I want to be, get an opportunity, go get a chance to play in the big leagues. And he held true to his word. And midway through my freshman year, I'm catching majority of the games. Sophomore year, completely take over the position. All Big East performer that year, and then junior year, preseason All Big East catcher. Postseason. Was on I think some of the award watch lists and whatnot, but it allowed me to be there at home, get the schooling that I needed to, and pursue the dream that I had. And I'm so, so thankful to him and the staff that was there, how well they treated me, how well they treated my family, and forever grateful for that and that opportunity. And it springboarded me to an opportunity to get into pro ball
as a catcher. So
as
how
a
do you
catcher.
go from catcher aspirations for the big leagues to pitcher, and you do make it to the big leagues as a pitcher?
There was this guy named Yadier Molina who kind of stunted a lot of people's growth as a catcher in the Cardinals system. My own, a guy by the name of Jason Mott, a guy by the name of Robert Stock. And it's funny because all three of us ended up pitching in the big leagues at some point in our career. And it's funny because Mott was one of the first guys to do it, converting from catching to pitching. And I used to catch Mott. So when that transition happened, yeah, I'd broken my hand. The first spring training in '07, was out for over half the year, trying to come back from that. And then the following year, go to big league camp, get to be around, Dave Duncan, Tony La Russa, Mike Matheny, all these guys, incredible baseball people. Um, and then the decision was made that, hey, we want you to pitch. Now, obviously, I was less than thrilled about it. I still talk about it to this day with, the likes of Brent Strom, Derek Lilliquist, those types of guys who had a direct impact on making that transition. And I'm sure they were less than thrilled to have to deal with a very stubborn individual that I know I can be. And I'm thankful that they were able to overlook that and see the potential in me and invest in me the way they did. And, not just them, but other guys that I had, Ace Adams as one of my first true pitching coaches in low A. And then Brian Eversgerd, when I had him in high A with the Cardinals, I had really, really good men around me that had patience to help me with that stuff.
So you break in and you start with, so run me through your career real quick because I looked
Okay.
it up and I'm drawing a blank. I'm sorry. So you come up with the Cardinals in the minor league system.
Mhm.
Do you debut with no, you debut with the Astros, correct?
Correct.
You debut with the Astros. Were you traded? Were you,
I was traded after the deadline in 2010
yeah.
for Pedro Feliz because the Cardinals needed a third baseman because a bunch of their third basemen that went down with injuries. And so I was an after the deadline trade, go to the Astros at the end of 2010, get go to the fall league that year, um, get put on the 40 man, almost make the big league team out of camp the following year, had not thrown an inning above high A yet. Go to double A, throw really well, go to triple A, put up a zero for like 21 games, and then got a call to the big leagues and stayed the rest of the year in 2011 and 2012, made the opening day roster. Um, Ended up getting sent down at a certain point. I want to say it was in early July, I think, because we were talking about trading our then closer, who was Brett Myers, who they had taken out of the rotation, put in the bullpen as a closer. They wanted me to go back down to AAA and begin closing again to then come back up. But I ended up being involved in a big deal with the Astros and the Blue Jays at the time. It was myself, Jay Happ, and Brendan Lyon for like 8 or 9 Blue Jays. And so go through that transition. It obviously it wasn't the right organization for me at the time. Just kind of felt kind of tossed around. But then I go through the process that offseason. I get traded with John Farrell, the manager, to Boston, get DFA'd by Boston. The Braves pick me up. And I'll never forget this. I'm walking around Cabela's in West Virginia, and my agent calls me. He goes, "Hey, you just got claimed off of waivers, or so you're going to be back on the 40 man." Oh, cool. Who did I get claimed by? He said, "You're never going to guess." And I'm thinking, okay, close to home, great. Pittsburgh? He's like, "Nope, better." And I'm like, "Okay, please explain this." He goes, "The Braves." Now, at that time, growing up where I grew up, being in the South, you're a Braves fan. Like close enough to the Pirates, like, you watch them, but obviously if it was playoffs, it's definitely the Braves, TBS, all that kind of stuff. So huge Braves fan growing up, get to be in that organization, go to camp. You've got Kimbrel there, you've got Walden, you've got Jason Hayward, Freddie Freeman, all these impactful guys, Brian McCann, like just an incredible group of men that you get to be around and get the opportunity to start off in AAA for like 2 weeks, do okay down there, get called to the big leagues, do fairly well. We start losing some bullpen arms to injuries. Come June, July, something of that nature, guys went down. I get thrust into the eighth inning role, and I'm setting up for potentially one of the best closers ever to play this game in Craig Kimbrell, and got to learn so much from him, and had an impact on my career. Still friends to this day. Get to be a setup man to him for 2 years before I get traded to the Yankees with them for half a season. End up with the trade to the Nationals during 2015. Get hurt. Go through indie ball for a couple of seasons, and then finally make it back to the big leagues with the Rangers in 2019, and then decide to kind of step away from it. So there's the Clip Notes version.
The
That's
2013,
awesome.
you're underplaying this, by the way. It was a 1.78 ERA in 56 games. Like that's elite
Elite.
all-star level stuff. So you're very humble. I've said that to you many times throughout this year. Craig Kimbrell, we saw Craig Kimbrell in Gwinnett earlier this year, and Graham Pauly, who's with us right now, told me that his mom was a or is a physical therapist or something like that. So he got to know Craig Kimbrell as a kid, which was like really a big thrill for him to face Craig Kimbrell. You got to watch him work. I think he's a Hall of Famer.
Yes.
I also think it's so cool that there's so many guys who have accomplished what not many guys have accomplished what he's accomplished, but the ones who have, they wouldn't be in AAA, and he is. So when you saw him with the Stripers, what's he still looking for when he's accomplished so much in his career? And when you got to witness him with the Braves, what does he do that makes him so great?
He is such a physical anomaly because of his size and how he's able to generate so much force into the ground and then transfer it into the baseball. Like he's a special, special guy. Like he is basically a right-handed Billy Wagner. Yeah, another one that's just got inducted and should have been there years ago. But Craig is an incredible guy, incredible competitor. I would joke with him that I was one of the only guys that gave him to 50 saves, and I would remind him of that constantly. But I know he wanted to try and go after Mariano's record, and I think if he doesn't get banged up and have some stuff kind of go against him, I think he was the only guy that would have had a true shot at it. Um, and I think he's wanting to get close to 500. I know he's still a little ways away. It would probably take him a season or two if somebody's willing to give him that opportunity to try and close out games. But, the velocity's not obviously what it used to be. I would love to see him get that back and be able to finish strong and finish it as the guy that we all saw be this dominant force for so long. But he's had an incredible run. I'm so proud of him. You know, really happy for him, Ashley, for their kids, like that whole entire family. They're wonderful, wonderful people.
The 2013 season also the only time you got a chance to play in the playoffs, and I believe it was against the Dodgers. You've told me this story. I feel like I have to ask as a broadcaster,
Sure.
as over my shoulder over there is Vin Scully for those who are watching on YouTube. I got to be better at pointing on this reverse camera. But anyway, um, Vin Scully is like the iconic broadcaster of your era, of many eras. You have told me some really cool things about like going back to listen to hear if he had stories, and he did. Like, do you remember what he said when you played the Dodgers? Didn't have to be that postseason, but anytime you saw those guys.
It was amazing the art. Like what he did was art. It wasn't just broadcasting. Like he reached into your living room, he reached into your headset, and he was talking directly to that person. If you ever listen to him, and Dodger fans can say this because they got the opportunity to listen to him for so many years. Um, but I remember hearing the broadcast, and he's talking about me being from West Virginia, about there not being too many guys from there, and just kind of the painting the picture, as I've talked with you many times about, just the ability to just paint this landscape. And I mean, he's Picasso with a microphone. That's what he was. It was incredible. So, but I remember him talking about, being from West Virginia, some experiences I think he had with some former West Virginians, just he makes everything so personable and like so personal to everyone. And it was really, really cool, like the homework that he would do on each guy, especially as a rookie coming up. Like he didn't have to give me the time of day or even talk about me or where I was from, but he did because that was his character.
Postseason, did you feel like extra juice in that environment? I know it didn't go your guys' way in 2013, but I would have to think, looking back, was it really cool to be on that stage for the only time in your career?
It was amazing. And I remember like it's something special when you're at then Turner Field, when you're running out of the bullpen and they're doing the tomahawk chop, and that place is just shaking. And it's one of the coolest things still to this day. I've been to football games, college football games, all that kind of stuff where there might have been more people, but the atmosphere at that time was so electric. It was like I couldn't imagine anything better. And to get to experience that and be on that team with that group of guys that I still to this day consider family, it was incredible. And I want so many guys to be able to experience that. And for the guys to get a taste of that here within a week and a half, I think is going to be really, really cool. Like, obviously, you do have jitters, you do have this extra adrenaline, but just being able to be present in the moment and understand, yes, it's still a baseball game. Yes, there are things I need to go accomplish, and I need to go do them in a certain order and not let the moment get too big for me.
Troy, I have
Perfect.
one more. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that was awesome. But just keep going if you got one
All
more.
right. Yankee Stadium. That's supposed to be like a preeminent place to play in New York Yankees. I was not a Yankees fan as a kid. I just want to preface this by saying that, but it's like it is the New York Yankees, right? Like they are the greatest baseball franchise with this boisterous fan base. And I know it wasn't the old Yankee Stadium with all the ghosts and everything like that, but what were your thoughts of playing in New York City for the Yankees of all teams?
When you put on pinstripes for the first time, like you're always you hear of the evil empire, all this other stuff, but you put on those pinstripes and there is a pride in putting them on. And it's not fake. It's not fictitious. It is 100% just incredible that you walk to your locker on opening day, there's your jersey, and your that jersey and that emblem and that symbol is so recognized throughout the world. We're not talking about America, we're talking about the world. And you're putting that on with no nameplate on your back because the fan base is that committed, loyal, ravenous, however you want to describe them. They know who you are. Like they don't need a program to be like, oh, that's Dylan Betances. Oh, that's Brett Gardner. Oh, that's player X. Like they know whether you're the at that time the number one guy on the roster when it was A-Rod, or if you're number 25 on the roster, the 25th man. They know who you are, they know what you're about, and they are behind you 100%. And it was really, really cool to be a part of that organization, to understand history, which I was a baseball nut, obviously growing up my entire life, but to get to be a part of an organization like that and understand how passionate that organization and the fan base is really, really cool. And I want that for like what we have in Miami. Like that's a passionate fan base down in Miami, and to feed them and cultivate that winning atmosphere, they want to come out. Because I got to see it when, the late Jose Fernandez would come and pitch every fifth day, and you saw the people show up and just go crazy for that guy. God rest him, he was incredible. And you want to talk about putting on a show, he put one on.
I just want to say for the people following Jumbo Shrimp Marlins fans, who've been listening all year, you are absolutely incredible. And the job you have done this year with this team, as Troy has attested to many times on this podcast, it's incredible. I cannot wait for the postseason. And Troy, like since you've gone, it's a brand new team. And all of a sudden, it's like, here we are, winners of 8 of 11, finding our stride, it seems like, knock on wood. But Carp, you've done a great job this year, and you've been just an
Thank
absolute
you.
class act to work with. So thank you for your time yet again here on the podcast.
Well, I'm thankful that Troy finally let me on here. As much of a hard time as I gave him about it, we'd be in the outfield talking, and he'd bring up something about the podcast. Like, you really want me on there? Are you sure you want me on there? But
Carp,
no, I follow you guys so much, and I love the insight that you guys give. It's authentic. It's wonderful to hear, and just getting the opportunity to let the fan base get to know you guys and the guys you've interviewed a little bit more. It's a wonderful thing, and I praise you guys for that. It's incredible.
all we try to do, we try to make sure that, as much as we are animals in the cage, we got netting around us. We are humans. We are people. We have thoughts and emotions, and so that's the whole goal of this podcast. And plus, it's a little fun too. But Carb, thank you so much for spending the time with us. You, of course, had a huge impact on me this year. You will for the rest of my life. Thank you so much for everything that you've done for us, especially for coming onto the podcast and being relatively um, reserved in the sense of you didn't make fun of me too much. So I really thank you for that.
Well,
You
it's
can
because I
let
love
anything
you. That's
out.
why.
That's why. But thank you very much for everything that you've done. Guys, this has been Turn 2 with Scott and Troy. That was David Carpenter. What a fantastic interview. You can catch us anywhere you get podcasts, Apple, Spotify, and you can even catch us on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Follow us, like us, let us know what you think. We got a lot of different comments coming in and a lot of different support. Please keep giving us all that positive feedback. You guys are awesome. We can't thank you enough for supporting the Turn 2 podcast this year.